Welcome back to the Steel Podcast YouTube channel. We are recording this video on short notice because there have been two massive signings in the league. We recorded a video last night. That'll go up sometime this coming week, but we had to put that on pause and record a new video because when the best pitcher in baseball signs a huge contract to now the best team in baseball, you got to talk about it. I mean, let's just get right into it. Bauer to the Dodgers. $102 million, 3 years. This makes him, and we'll have to talk about this, they front-loaded the crap out of his contract, making him the highest paid baseball player this season. First of all, that seems ridiculous to me. Second of all, why would they do that?
Well, it wasn't the Dodgers' choice. It was Trevor Bauer's choice, and that's why he's a Dodger, not a Met right now. He has opt-outs after year one and year two, where he's getting paid $40 million and $45 million, and then only $17 million in year three. He did not want to sign a long deal. He wanted to go win a World Series. He wanted to be in Los Angeles, and he wanted a crap ton of money. He got all of it, and that's why he set the deal up like this.
This seems like the Dodgers. I mean, I feel like, didn't they backload Mookie Betts' contract?
Yeah, and that's what mostly happens, but we've seen a bunch of shorter contracts this year, right? So, I mean, it was Bauer. That's what he wanted, and they gave it to him, I guess. And, I mean, I do think they're going to be down a ton of money once he leaves after year two.
Okay, so we've got a lot to break down, but first of all, you mentioned that contracts have just been shortening. Real Muto, 5 years. Springer, pretty short. DJ, 6 years. Is this where baseball is headed? Do you think we're going to get these shorter contracts in the future, or are we going back to the 10-year deals? Because it felt like the year before this, just recently, we've had longer deals than usual. It's been pushed to 12 years, to 13 years. So it was like, oh, it's extending. Now, do you think they're reining it back?
Well, I do think that there's a player's choice, right? I'm assuming that Trout, Betts, Machado, Harper, these guys who signed massive long deals recently, they wanted to stay where they were for that amount of time. And I mean, Bauer definitely didn't. Real Muto's a catcher. He's like the most injury-prone position. These guys wear out faster. LeMahieu, I think he just wanted to go be a Yankee. I'm not sure about Springer, but he's also on the older side compared to Betts and Harper and Machado when they signed. So I don't know if it's going to be a trend. I think it's smart for the teams that are signing them, but I don't think it's going to be a full trend, really.
So let's just break down the few aspects of Bauer going to the Dodgers. First of all, blank statement, love it, hate it.
I love it for both parties, really, because the Dodgers very well could win the next two World Series. I think they're the favorites to win the next two World Series. And Bauer, he wanted to go to Los Angeles. He got a ton of money. He's going to win a bunch of World Series, hopefully, for him. Great deal. That's baseball, though.
It's pretty insane. I mean, if you had started this offseason saying, who do you think's most likely to sign Bauer, Dodgers were low on the list, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's because Bauer wanted to go, right? Go to Los Angeles. And, I mean, that's why the Angels were in on it. And they were going to pull some money from who knows where. But since baseball doesn't have a luxury or a salary cap, they can do it.
How the Dodgers have this kind of money, I have no idea.
I do have the feeling that some teams do have this kind of money. The Mets have this kind of money, but Stephen Cohen has expressed no interest in going over the luxury cap in baseball. So, yeah.
We'll get to the Mets in a second because this has been, all I can say, it's been a monster letdown of an offseason. But in terms of the Dodgers-Padres race that we're going to see, it's been like Dodgers World Series, Padres, trades, Yu Darvish, Snell. And now the Dodgers have somehow reclaimed the momentum going into this season. Now, how crucial, whether or not Bauer makes a difference between these two teams winning or losing, how crucial was it for them to just take back the narrative of we're the number one team in that division? Because you look into this season, the Padres were making all the moves. They had the storyline, right? They had the momentum. And as funny as it is to talk about off-season momentum, it's a real thing. I mean, the feeling going into a season, the Dodgers just reclaimed that, right?
Yeah, they definitely did. I mean, we talked about how the Padres are exciting and how Fernando Tatis Jr. is so excited. I mean, the most exciting pitcher in baseball has to be Trevor Bauer, right? And so the Dodgers now seem so much more exciting. They're going to go back to the World Series. Everybody thinks it. And, unless the Padres do something surprising, the Dodgers have the lead going into the season, have all the momentum, and again, are my favorites and are going to clinch the division by 5 games even maybe. And I do think they're going to have the best record in baseball.
Yeah, I think they're going to have the best record in baseball. The division is not easy with the Padres, but the rest of the teams are lackluster. And you're looking at a team right now that Kershaw, Bauer, Bueller, I mean, it's a scary big three. What are you going to do if you face this? And then you've got a lineup that's absolutely stacked as well. So how are you going to beat this team? These guys are like the Lakers of baseball right now. They're stacked.
Well, what you got to do is you got to put a rotation together that will get the lineup out. I don't think it's going to be, if you're going to beat the Dodgers, it's going to be you're beating their hitters. The pitchers are going to limit your runs no matter what. So I do believe that in the first 3 games of a series, it's going to go to 7 innings with Bauer, Kershaw, and Bueller just shutting your lineup down. So the only teams that have a chance are the teams that have 3 good pitchers that can beat the Dodgers lineup if they get lucky.
Right. You look at postseason play with those 3 guys going out on the mound, and that's where it shines the brightest because you have 3 aces that you're going to have to fight against. I mean, Kershaw has not stopped putting up numbers. Bueller hopefully gets better. I mean, he's still – how young is Bueller?
I don't know. I think he's 26 maybe. I can check.
So, yeah, hopefully Bueller's getting better, and now you've got Bauer. And I would argue that over this offseason, Bauer has become the face of baseball. We don't usually see it from a pitcher, but the reason I would say this is because, first of all, he's the highest paid player in baseball. But second of all, his engagement with the fans is no other player does it. He says exactly what he thinks. He doesn't care. He tweets like crazy, whatever he wants. He has his own YouTube channel where he talks about his games and he talks about the events of the MLB with this unfilteredness that you don't get from other players. I mean, I know Tatis is like, he's been going off and he's been lighting up the league, but there's not that same fan engagement.
Yeah, and so I don't know. People can see me now. I was getting ready to argue, and then I thought better of it. Tatis was the face of baseball, and I was hoping you would eventually admit that. It's Bauer now, and as you said it, he's so much more involved with everything around the game. There is one thing that we wanted to talk about all offseason. It was Trevor Bauer. Even before Springer and LeMahieu and all of them signed, it was Bauer. So, I mean, I don't know. Be on the front of MLB The Show next year if he has a good season. It's the face of baseball.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: how ridiculous is it that he is the highest paid player in baseball? How mad does that make you? Because he doesn't deserve to be the highest paid player in baseball. I mean, I don't think a starting pitcher should ever be the highest paid player in baseball unless they're throwing a no-hitter every time they go on the mound. You're pitching one every 5 days. I'm not going to say the value of a great starter pitcher is not as good as a great hitter, but should he be the highest paid?
No, it should be Mike Trout. And I mean, Mike Trout was the highest paid player. And I understand Bauer does want to pitch once every 4 days, but with a rotation like that, it might not work very well. It angers me that he's the highest paid, that he's paid more than the entire Pirates roster is being paid this year. And it's because there's nothing to back up his season last year except the fact that he admitted to cheating and that he's going to keep doing it until the MLB tries to stop him. So if he is cheating and that's what caused the 1.73 ERA last year, then if he does it again, sub-2 ERA, he's up there to deserving the $34 million per year if he goes all 3 years, maybe. But since MLB's contracts are so inflated, I don't even think he deserved 34.
I would agree with that. Now, the one thing I would say is it kind of feels like it's a cheap, he's the highest paid player because look at his deal. 3 years and it's front loaded. You could front load Mike Trout's deal and he could be getting $50 million a year. I mean, it's like he didn't sign a long-term deal. In 3 years, he could be getting paid $10 million if he doesn't post up numbers. I mean, it's like, okay, he's the highest paid, but feels like an ego trip a bit. He's getting plenty of money. He's getting plenty of money, no doubt. You mentioned Springer and LeMahieu. Let's talk about the Mets because now this off season it looks miserable because, I mean, look, they get Lindor and Carrasco, right? You're thinking, oh, the Mets momentum. Here comes the big team out of New York. They chase Springer down, goes to the Blue Jays. They chase LeMahieu down, goes to the Yankees. Bauer, he's the goal. He goes to the Dodgers. And now, look at what you just did. This team, if they don't make a run in the playoffs, or if they potentially don't even make the playoffs, right? Then what's going to happen is they traded for a guy, Lindor, who they have to pay $22 million and then re-sign him if they want him to stay on their team. So now this offseason doesn't just look like not a success. It looks like a failure because they're paying extra money, they shipped off prospects, and they don't have a team that's overwhelming you.
Yeah, and you know what? They're not going to win the World Series this year. Stephen Cohen apparently does not have as much money as we thought he did. I don't know what happened, really, but I thought this guy was willing to sign Bauer, LeMahieu, and Springer for all their contracts combined right now. And I heard he put the money on the table, 3 years, $120 million for Bauer. But he didn't get him. I mean, last night, I had assumed basically Bauer's going to sign with the Mets. And I told Asher, I think he could sign before we record this episode. And he didn't. He signed today, and he signed with a different team than I totally thought he would.
It makes you wonder that maybe he's not a good salesman. And what I mean by that is money's not the only thing. Obviously I've never been a free agent in the MLB, so I'm a little out of my depth in guessing at this, but I would guess if you're a free agent signing a multi-million-dollar contract where you're going to be making a lot of money no matter where you sign, you go to the ballpark, you sit down with the manager and the general manager, and the owner, I would guess, is probably in these conversations as well, and they give you their pitch. And the only guys he got was through a trade. He wasn't able to sign a single free agent. So maybe those guys went into New York, they sat down with him, and they said, I don't want to play with him. I don't want to play for him.
Yeah, and you know what? The general manager for the Mets, in the middle of this whole Bauer deal, he has explicit text sent to some female reporter. He's fired. There's a new guy in there. Maybe Bauer doesn't like him. Who knows? And Bauer wanted to go to Los Angeles. Free agents have their preferences on where they want to go. George Springer, he was part of the Astros. He needed to flee the country. DJ LeMahieu, he went to the Yankees because he wanted to play there. It just wasn't the Mets' time. They haven't been good. They have a bad reputation, so they didn't get anybody.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of this offseason, we said, what if Springer, LeMahieu, and Bauer go to the Mets? You just mentioned it. Not a single one. And now the Dodgers, how many games? How many games do they win? 115?
115. That's what I will put on the Dodgers right now. One of the greatest teams in MLB history, as long as nobody gets hurt for a significant time.
It's a scary team. And they're going to be paying a lot of money. But, again, there's no salary cap. Does that need to change in your mind?
Yes, it has to change, and it's because this is the first time the team like this is being built by money. Some teams have been built through smart trades, developing a team. And you can look at the Padres like that. They have a pretty high payroll, but they did develop players. The Dodgers just went out and bought Mookie Betts. They went out and bought Trevor Bauer, and now they're the World Series favorite team. Salary cap, please, please, please. Otherwise, this is going to get out of hand.
Yeah, and obviously there were some big teams in the past. There were some big Yankee teams, but there were, what I would say is, in the past decade or so, with contracts rising so high, and it's been harder to build just these super teams. I mean, we haven't seen a super team in the past 5 years. There hasn't been a repeat winner in the past how long? It's been a while since we've seen a repeat World
Yeah.
Series winner. We're looking at a Dodgers team that very well could be a repeat World Series winner.
More than a repeat at this time. I remember asking you a question a few days, maybe a week ago. Who wins more World Series in the next 5 years? Or maybe it was conference titles in the next division titles in the next 5 years. The Padres or the Dodgers? You answered the Padres. I answered the Padres. Is your answer the same right now?
No, it's not. I think the biggest reason why Padres was the appealing option was, again, this momentum. Because Bauer isn't going to take this team to another level. He's not going to be like, I mean, yeah, he'll make a huge impact if he has a season like he had in 2020. But one single player isn't the difference between a great team and just, wow, they're the greatest team of all time. However, if you look, even though the Dodgers came off the World Series, they felt like they hit their moment and they might be fading back a little. They might be due for some regression, and the Padres are on the up. It was almost like this, right? They peaked, they're coming down, and the Padres are hitting their stride. But with this signing, it just shows that the Dodgers know they're going higher than they were. They're a better team than they were in 2020. And now it's like, well, if they're a better team in 2020 and we saw the absolute dominance in 2020, then they got to be winning this division. I'd probably take them to win the next division. And then you're starting to see the Padres, where's that momentum? Because there's going to be question marks in the next couple of years. A lot of young guys on that Padres team. We're going to see how well they perform. We could be here 2 years from now saying this Padres team has some contracts to sign and they haven't won much in the playoffs. They've gotten there a couple times, but they're not at the peak. The Dodgers now have the confidence and the players to do so.
Yeah, and you know what I was going to ask you is that Nolan Arenado is probably going to opt out next year because the Cardinals are not going to be amazing. They could win the division. They're not going to win a postseason series. Nolan Arenado opts out. You said you don't think he goes to the Dodgers. The Dodgers obviously have no care at all about the money they're spending. They need a third baseman. Yes or no?
Before the Bauer trading, I would have said no because, and it's funny because they've signed somebody for a lot of money, and now I'm more willing to say they'll sign another guy for a lot of money because even though they have hypothetically less money to spend, I just didn't think they were this kind of team. I mean, I know they've made some big moves. They've gotten some big guys, but I didn't think they were this kind of team to just go out and give somebody $40 million. They've done it. Now, LA's the place to be if you want to win a World Series. And Arenado, he wants his moment in the sun, clearly. And the Dodgers, I think they're willing to ink him. They want to be the dominant team. If for a while, it felt like, they were just trying to win it once because they couldn't do it. They couldn't win the World Series. Now they've done it, and it's like, okay, we did it. Now we got to win it again and again. Now we're going for a dynasty. Because the goal before was, can we just grab it once? Now it's, can we build a dynasty?
Yeah, and let me lay out this roster or this lineup real quick. Will Smith at catcher, one of the best young catchers in baseball. Nolan Arenado at third, Corey Seager at short, Gavin Lux, top second base prospect, second base, Max Muncy, first base, Cody Bellinger and Mookie Betts, plus one more outfielder. One of the greatest lineups of all time, not to forget Bauer and Kershaw and Buehler in the rotation. It's incredible that they've been able to do this. If they sign Arenado to that team I've just mentioned, that would be amazing.
Yeah, and one can only wait and see, but the MLB needs a luxury tax. For the first time in a while, we're seeing a super team. This is what I hate about the NBA is the super teams. It's really not nearly as prevalent in other sports, especially because roster size is so much bigger. NBA, you got 5 guys on the floor, but when you start to have teams dominate, you got to question, how is this happening? And props to the Dodgers. They're not doing anything wrong. But it's just a reflection of, if somebody can do this, and you know what? Is it a double standard for me to say this is a Yankees team when we've built some massive teams on some massive contracts? Yeah, listen, I've forever been a backer of the salary cap. No matter how much I want my team to go out and sign the guy for $50 million, I still support the salary cap. Would it hurt my team? Yes, because I'm a fan of a huge market team. I still, as a podcast where we talk about building teams for the cheapest amount of money and sabermetrics and using these metrics to find guys for not the money, I am a backer of the salary cap. That being said, we'll just see what the MLB will do. I don't see it likely. But let's talk about Marcell Ozuna, because he's the second signing. We don't need to talk about him as much, but he came off of a career year, and the Braves snatch him up. Chances of him repeating those stats even close?
Well, I mean, if he gets DH again for the whole season, he's not going to repeat those stats. I mean, he finished at third in our total player value stat, which is incredible. And he's not going to do it again, because there's no way he's repeating the 444 WOBA I believe he had. And he could very well have a WOBA over 400 if he DHs again. If he plays outfield, it'll be a good season. I don't doubt it. But he's not going to repeat it, and that's why he only got the 4 years, $65 million, not the 4 years, like $85 million that he may have actually deserved based on last season.
Yeah, I think this is just a solid signing for the Braves. I mean, you got to ink this guy for the Braves. You got to get him back on the roster. You can't let him go after the season he had. And they do so. They don't overpay. I mean, if he doesn't have the season you want him to have next year, you got him for 4 years, $65 million. This is a Brave team that, you know, they're trying to win a World Series, frankly. And they're in a stacked NL at this point. I'd say the NL is stronger than the AL. And so you got to get your guys back on the roster. There's not much to say about this deal. We expected it. They got it done. It was the right decision.
I'll say, I was seeing, last night I saw Red Sox, Rays, and Braves are still the front runner. And I was like, could it be? And I guarantee to you, if the Red Sox had signed him for 4 years, $65 million, I'll be like, he's going to be even better next year. 460 WOBA, greatest player in baseball. But it's a solid signing for the Braves. They're going to win a bunch of games. They're going to be in the postseason, and they're going to either lose to the Padres or the Dodgers and go home again. There you go.
That's what it's looking like for every other NL team who thinks they have a chance. But, I mean, that's really it. Bauer is shaking up the league. The Mets, they failed. Do the Mets make the playoffs?
No, they don't make the playoffs after just losing that division to the Braves. They might not even get second in the division. Who knows at this point? DeGrom thought he was getting help. They did not get him help. Lindor, gone. Carrasco, 2 years, gone. It's not going to be worth it. The Mets are going to be bad. Stephen Cohen needs to figure it out. We all thought this was going to be great. It's not.
There you have it. And that's the Mets offseason in a nutshell. The Dodgers and Padres, they are looking stacked. We have an episode. This will be out. You'll be seeing this for the first time on February 6th. And then we have an episode, a really fun one about the AL East. That'll be coming later this week. Leave a like, subscribe, check us out on Instagram. We're there. We're active. And main podcast episode should be coming out soon as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time.